There's been some very great presentations focusing on the view out. Now I'm trying to look inside the spaces, how the light affects the interiors. So basically we are all surrounded by light. We relate to light somehow. We live within the light. Whether the spaces are designed in relation to energy efficiency, heat loss, sustainability, visual or non-visual effects, resulting actual luminous space are what we immediately respond to. So the pavilion Poetic Daylight explores this through a design process and also through as an experiment. It was initially made for the UIA World Congress of Architecture here in Copenhagen in 2023. And as one can say, architecture is by nature multidisciplinary, and so was this project. It was made in collaboration between architects, constructors, engineers, carpenters, painters, and a bit of research. And the whole process was generously funded by Dreyer's Fund. The design of the pavilion explores the interaction between light and space, building upon the fundamental understanding of light as a relational, dynamic, and also site-specific phenomenon. And the rays of light, they become visible to the human eye as they interact with the surface, having the ability to reveal luminous architectural spacing, creating the visual environment in which we live. So basically, it was all about light. It was all about, It was all about light. It was all about trying to capture the characteristics of light, trying to encapsulate it into the spaces. So this also became sort of the core concept of the project, trying to create spaces that were dedicated to each of the luminous sources, the light from the sky, the light from the sun, and the reflected light. All in all, 3 spaces. It took a while sort of to agree on how to try to express this different scenery of light in a space. But we decided on trying to capture these 3 different kinds of light in 3 different spaces. So we made a plan, and it looks a bit funny shaped, but it's also due to where it was positioned. It was positioned in a square in Copenhagen, and that was the area we were allowed to occupy. But it's based on these 3 spaces, 3 spaces, placed as a sequence and linked by a corridor, with the intention of trying to make each light character stand out in each of these rooms. And the first room, where we try to describe the light from the sky, the aperture is orientated only towards the sky, taking in light from the sky. And all the sides of the shaft is differently angled. In that way, they stand out in a variety of shades of white and grey, also kind of mimicking the sky. It was carefully designed, because we had the challenge that we would not have this direct sunlight entering the space. So therefore, this particular design of the shaft, leaving only the light from the sky entering the bottom of the space. So therefore, the light which comes from above reaches towards the surfaces painted in cool white, and creating a space which is having filled with diffused light, similar as the sky, was the intention that we sort of experience this space of skylight. Then we made the room for the sun. In here we invited the sun into the space, and also by enhancing the character of the sunlight through the surface material, which were warmly tinted wood. And the direct sun also has this capability of creating sharp shadow pattern, and therefore there's a structure enhancing the shadow pattern as well. And then finally, we also made, it's maybe hard to call it a space, it's more like an enclosed space for the reflected light. And again, we used the surface to enhance the character of the reflected light, where we painted it very glossy to make it stand out with a kind of flicker. So these were the three spaces, and as I said, they were linked by a corridor, a darker area, so you can sort of pause or have a pause in between entering the different spaces. So what I've shown is the visual impression of the spaces, but we did this in a collaboration, so we also added more scientific approaches, where I was focusing on the quality, others were focusing more on the quantities of the space, trying to capture that as well. And actually the two spaces, the light from the sky and the light from the sun, has exactly the same area, square meters. So again, the two spaces which were exactly identical, except from the way that we took in light, and thereby we can actually create these very, very different spaces. And it took, of course, some experiments, and this is a classic way of doing it, and it was made at the School of Architecture, lots and lots of scale models, investigating how would we manage to achieve this impression that we were looking for. So there was lots of models being done, and as I think most architects in here will know, that doing scale models is nice, and you can see quite a lot of the effects, but the actual perception of the space is still very hard to grasp through a model. And as I mentioned in the beginning, light is sort of comes alive when it is reflected from a surface. So therefore the character of the surface were also investigated quite thoroughly, and the painter made all of these different samples of 24 different surface characters. And this is the white one, and it is photographed, which you can see over there, in different angles. So it was also sort of investigated what would the surface look like from different angles. And likewise, it was made to the darker surface. So, and finally, it is now standing there. It's standing at the School of Architecture, and you're all welcome to go and have a look. And at the moment, there's a survey being done, trying to registrate the variations throughout a whole year, how the spaces change character and what light does to them. And of course, it's not a matter of trying to say this is exactly how it is, but also to explore the variations. And then, of course, there has been a lot of things going on, research, education, and public. People have been invited in, experiencing the spaces. And right now, well, we did the space and we decided on how we would like it to be and what the characters of the spaces would be. But does the message come across? Are we just, because being in the group, designing it, agreeing on what we're experiencing? So now we are asking people to, we're handing out surveys and questionnaires to asking people, so what do you actually think about these spaces? But to just sum up, we try to do these list of rooms, 3 different rooms with 3 different characters working within the design of the framing of the windows, and trying to thereby create different characters of the spaces, which is of course a classic architectural discipline, but still trying really to emphasize the importance of how we do the apertures or the framing of the apertures. And also in that way trying to capture the poetry that you can create within a space. Not, as we looked, there's an importance in the view, but it's also important what we actually experience within the space. And maybe one can say that these 3 spaces have become some kind, not only illustrating the poetry of a space, but becoming a poetic of light. So, yes, this is all. Thank you.